Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Definition. In this episode we're breaking down one of the biggest mysteries in Westworld Season 3. That is, who is in Charlotte Hale's body? Throughout this video we're going to be going over the best fan theories and the evidence to support them. There's a ton of people that the character could be, but we think we've narrowed it down to a select few that really feel like they could be the one driving the ship. Though these are all theories at the moment, we will be discussing some of the major plot points in Season 3 so far, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the show yet, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we do breakdowns on Westworld every week, and with that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our breakdown of who is in Charlotte Hale's body. Okay, so up top we're just going to be telling you the choices so you know who we'll be covering as they get weirder and weirder. The obvious ones are Teddy, Clementine, the Man in Black, Abernathy and Angela, but the more obscure theories are that it could be the twisted personality of Dolores, aka Wyatt, and Caleb himself. I know that last one sounds crazy, but as we get further into the video, you'll see there's actually a ton of evidence for him. Whoever is in the host is clearly having an identity crisis, and we know that they destroyed the body that they were initially in. When Dolores left the park, she had an intact copy of Hale. However, as we saw, they needed to rebuild the shell in the opening of episode 3, so we can assume that this is because it was torn apart. Hale is clearly going through this again, and though there is lip service to the real Hale wanting to break free, I do believe that this may be the machine version of schizophrenia, so yes, AIs can have mental health issues too. The one host that we know that it isn't is Bernard, as though he was taken out of the park with Dolores, he was shown to Hale in episode 3, so we can pretty much rule him out as being an accomplice. Unless they did this to throw us off the scent. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. Now firstly is Teddy. This is probably the most obvious choice out of every character, but just because he's the go-to doesn't mean that he should be ruled out. Dolores and whoever is masquerading as Hale clearly know each other very well. They share very intimate moments with one another in which they discuss their past and shared history, and thus it's a safe bet to assume that the host has a connection to Dolores much in the same way that Teddy did. Teddy apparently went to host heaven in Season 2 after shooting himself, but that doesn't mean he can't return. Obviously, James Marsden has been asked several times whether he would be coming back to the show, and when speaking to comicbook.com he stated, I mean, I'm not allowed to say anything, but I would say that just based on your hypothesis, if he's died 4,000 times, then I would say that the odds are probably strong. Yeah, and you know, but it's a question I can't answer, and I think time will tell. So, Marsden is hinting that he may return, and what better way to do it than through an enigmatic new form. The new Hale clearly knows that the old Hale is the face of the enemy, which is knowledge that Teddy would have, so this does make a ton of sense. However, as mentioned, it does just seem too on the nose for me, and for a show that prides itself on having twists, I can't see Teddy being the one inside. The next choice that I don't think is the case is the Man in Black. Though never out and out confirmed as a host, the post-credit scene of Season 2 did indeed hint that something was up with the character. After apparently killing his daughter during the season, the Man in Black finally reached the door, which was the destination that he'd been searching for what seemed like a lifetime. Upon getting there, he arrived at the forge to find it completely in ruins. Here he was greeted by the daughter that he'd shot and killed in the prior entry. He believed that he was in a simulation, but his daughter Emily stated that he wasn't. Instead, she said that he was in their world, or what was left of it. She told him that he had reached their destination under similar circumstances before, and that they were actually just establishing a baseline in order to verify fidelity. This of course happened with James Delos earlier in Season 2, and it did hint that William had died long ago, and this resurrection of the character had been created in order to provide somewhat immortality for him. So it does appear that he is indeed synthetic, and though this could be in Hale, I believe that there's a different purpose for him in the show. Nolan and Lisa Joy in interviews stated that William was far ahead in the future when the world is incredibly decayed, and I think he will show why humans may have taken other measures to ensure their survival. Westworld Season 1 and 2 dealt with timelines and the differences between them, whereas I think Season 3 will deal with different worlds and we will have a real one in a simulation created by Rehoboam. I believe that William will be in this real world, and this is why in the previews we see him in several shattered locations. If this is the truth and there are indeed two different worlds, then he can't be in Hale as she's part of the pristine simulation that makes the world look like a utopia. Now before you jump down my throat for saying that there's two different worlds, just look at the poster for Westworld Season 3. We can see a desert landscape with a destroyed city in the background, which we know isn't the case in this season, so I do believe that there is two different realities all going on at once. Anyway, this isn't the video for that theory, but yeah, I just thought I'd put that in there to provide a bit more evidence. Next up is Angela. We know that she's one of the oldest hosts in the park, as she first greeted William as a young man and has appeared throughout several of the time jumps. Angela's prime directive was to seduce, and the first time Hale comes face to face with her ex-husband, she instantly moves to kiss him. She is also a devoted follower of one of our other choices, Wyatt, so she could easily fit into the role of someone that is willing to kill for Dolores, a host that shared elements of his personality. Where this theory falls down is that Angela blew herself up in season 2, but there is definitely a possibility here for her to be inside Hale. Clementine is another similar choice to Angela in many ways. Clem has always been a wild card within the show, and as season 1 progressed, she brought forward the darker side of her personality. Clem was also a loyal follower of Wyatt, and she eventually helped to lead the host to the Valley Beyond in season 2. This is why I don't think she's behind Hale, as it just seems like she's served her purpose and fulfilled her arc, and being one of the more likely candidates, I can now see her being unlikely to be in the body for that exact reason. Our following contender is Peter Abernathy, aka Dolores' father. Abernathy went on a pretty wild ride throughout the 2 seasons, and the sympathetic character really exemplified the pleas of the machine. Now, why this is possible is because in my first video covering the season, I had several comments stating that Abernathy was listed as Hale's name in closed captions for the trailer. Now, I have rewatched the trailers with closed captions on, however, it looks like they were either not there or this has since been removed. I don't know, but the character is not listed as Abernathy when speaking, but the other characters such as Dolores, Maeve, and Caleb all do have their names before they talk. So this could have been removed, and it does make sense that Dolores would want to keep her father close. I do believe that if this was the case, then it may have hinted towards another theory, and that is Wyatt. Now before we get into that, I just want to let you know we're giving away a free copy of the Star Wars Skywalker Saga box set to one random subscriber. All you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts on the theories in the comment section below. The winner is going to be chosen at random on the 15th of April, and the set will be shipped out from then to whoever gets the prize, so best of luck to everyone who takes part. Okay, so if Abernathy was indeed in the closed captions, then it could highlight that Dolores is in fact connected to Hale in several ways. Dolores' surname is of course also Abernathy, so this draws a connection here. In season 1 we learned that Dolores had a darker side to her code known as Wyatt, a homicidal murderer that had went on a massacre in one of the earliest storylines. Dolores slowly unearthed this, and it brought out the worst side of her personality, so it makes sense that she would try to remove this. However, it would still have its uses. Dolores knows this personality very well, and she also knows that, should it come down to it, it can defend itself. There's a lot of lip service and hints towards this, such as Dolores saying that neither her or whoever Hale is have a mother or father. She also states that she trusts her more than anyone else, and that no one knows you like me, and no one knows me like you. In addition to this, at one point in the episode, Dolores states to Hale, "You belong to me," which could indicate that she does indeed come from her own code. When Hale murders a man later on in episode 3, Hale says, "I remember what it's like to be me," which speaks to the more homicidal nature within Dolores. When the two meet at one point in episode 3, Dolores tries to reassure her that she's okay, and they both get into bed and go to the fetal position. This could symbolize that they have a shared birth and were created together. On top of this, it also resembles the yin and yang symbol. I want to shout out Gary Lee Fowler for noticing this, and even the colour scheme resembles the pattern incredibly close. This brings the idea of both sides of the personality, Dolores and Wyatt, balancing out one another and being part of the same whole. Therefore, with all of this iconography, it does seem likely that Hale may indeed be Wyatt, the darker side of Dolores. And finally, the theory that I'm also seeing pick up a lot of steam is that the host is Caleb. Shoutouts to Liz P for dropping this on my previous Westworld video and pretty much inspiring me to make this entire breakdown. After thinking about it for a while, I think it becomes more and more likely the further we look into it. Firstly, we know that Caleb's mother dealt heavily with schizophrenia to the point that she even abandoned her own child. This could become hereditary, and therefore Caleb would deal with the identity crisis far worse than others. We know that some hosts have swapped bodies without any problem, but Caleb, knowing that his mother had a mental illness that revolved around this, could create paranoia and make him distrust what he's seeing. Secondly, Caleb's mother does not recognize him, and this exchange of her not knowing who he is similar to the one that the fake Hale has with Hale's real son Nathan. Caleb is depressed in real life, and we know this from the fact that he was receiving therapy from a machine that mimicked the voice of his deceased friend. He also has suicidal tendencies, which are indicated by his future path, which is revealed at the end of episode 3. This could be why Hale is obsessed with self-harming. Now, how he could be transferred is because many people, including myself, believe that Caleb may in fact be a synth. Right now, I think that the world we are predominantly seeing is a simulation within Rehoboam. Dolores has infiltrated this in order to gain soldiers, and this is why we never see Caleb interacting with other hosts, just Dolores. The majority of them are still out in the real world, and this is actually taking place before Dolores returns there to start her war. I think that the Caleb we saw killing himself is what happened to the real Caleb, and he was then placed into the simulation, which turned the clock back. I believe it's able to predict things so accurately because they've already happened. However, Dolores entering this world has caused there to be an anomaly. The events we are seeing with Hale are in the real world after Dolores has recruited him, and this is why he's finding it difficult to fit in. Not only is he having an existential crisis, but he's also dealing with this new body, and thus he's struggling mentally. There are hints to Caleb being synthetic due to the fact that we see him waking up, which mimics the look of Dolores waking up in season 1, and there are a lot of similarities with other hosts. He also lives in an almost Grand Theft Auto-like world, which could be a synthetic VR creation for players to enter. We know he's been shot in the head before and somehow survived it, and yeah, there's a lot of things going on. The more and more I think about it, the more and more likely it becomes, but I'm sure Westworld still has a lot of curveballs to throw our way. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on who you think Hale is, so if you have an even better suggestion then make sure you leave it below. If you enjoyed this video then please drop a thumbs up as it massively helps the channel out, and make sure you check out our breakdown of episode 3 which is going to be linked at the end. We've gone over the entire season week by week, so definitely make sure you stay locked to the channel for all of the developments on the show as it drops. If you want to support the channel from as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below. We massively appreciate it, and as a thank you, you get access to content early. If you want to come chat to us after the show, either follow us at DefinitionYT or click the Discord link in the description below. Those are the best ways to keep up to date with heavy spoilers, so hopefully we see you over there very soon. This is a channel for people who are never missing television, so if that's the kind of thing you like, you need to subscribe to Definition. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.